We won the district where the opponent, Shontel Brown, lived. Her own neighbors voted against her.
The CEO of Democracy for America, Yvette Simpson, shared a bit of knowledge that you rarely ever hear on national television about who funds so-called mainstream Democrats, essentially corporate Democrats. Now, this is a discussion around Nina Turner's race against Shontel Brown in Ohio's 11th district, which, of course, Shontel Brown ended up winning. Now, I have two clips to show you here. The second one gets a little more into the back and forth, but the first one is Yvette Simpson basically schooling ABC News.
But on the Democratic side, in that Cleveland race, one more time the mainstream Democrat defeated the progressive Democrat.
Donald Trump weighed in on the Democratic primary, too. There was a lot of Trump Republican money in Ohio. You know, I'm from Ohio. I've been a leader in the state, an elected leader in the state. I was on the ground here. As soon as you hit Cleveland and Akron, those ads that were coming from dark money from Trump Republicans like Kraft and others really made the difference here. But at the end of the day, what progressives are celebrating is that we won black, white, brown, working class people. We won Cleveland and Akron. We won the district where the opponent, Shontel Brown, lived. Her own neighbors voted against her. What ended up happening was in the suburbs that are mostly wealthy and mostly white, those ads worked. And the turnout should be the story, because the turnout was less than 20% in an area where Ohio needs to be blue next year if we're going to continue to call our state purple. Otherwise, we're going to be calling it red.
Now, first, I want to point out how this shouldn't be news. This sharing of this knowledge on national television should be just the norm, discussing the ins and outs of what happens, how these campaigns are run, how they're won, with, in this case, with Shontel Brown, Republican money backing her in a Democratic special election primary. So the fact that, you know, I saw this and I felt the need to cover it is an issue, as this is a rarity in national television and cable news. So it's good to see Yvette Simpson on this panel. I'm shocked they allow someone like her on to discuss these issues every week. So it's good to see her on. Hope that she's a staple on that show. But we need to see more of this. We need to see more exposure of what goes on behind the scenes. And of course, money plays a huge role. And as you'll see in the next clip, of course, they completely disregard that when going on and continuing the conversation. Like there is never, if big money's ever mentioned during one of these panels, it's only by the person that's mentioning it, and they never have a further discussion. They never go any deeper into that discussion because, of course, they're afraid to. They're run by large corporations, so they want to avoid any discussion possible around corporate money influencing politics. Now, also, what was mentioned there is, I mean, fantastic. The fact that Nina Turner won Shontel Brown's own district. Nina Turner won Shontel Brown's own neighbors. Nina Turner, of course, also won the working class in that district as well. Shontel Brown only won because she got the wealthy suburbs out in big numbers. So this is going to, you know, we can't continue only blaming the big money because that's always going to be there. Yes, it has a massive impact. Yes, it is the main reason that these corporate candidates keep winning. But you also have to acknowledge that we're aware of that big money. So because we are aware that's always going to be there, we have to look at our own campaigns and what we can do differently next time. So I'm sure there were mistakes made in Turner's campaign, and they'll reassess that if she runs again. And if she does run again, by the way, they should make it a point. Nina Turner should make it a point to say that Shontel Brown only has that seat because Republicans backed her, and push that out in ads again and again and again, the way they attacked Nina Turner for her having made comments about criticizing Biden in the past. Use that same strategy against Shontel Brown. Republicans backed Shontel Brown. That's how she has this seat. You have a fake Democrat sitting right now in the House backed by Republican money. So that has to be a main talking point if Nina Turner runs again in that for that seat. Now let me get to the next clip here, which, of course, Rahm Emanuel. So I'm going to, of course, his analysis is partly whack. We'll get to it. But the fact that he's even on this panel is insane, and I'll break down exactly why in a second. But first, here's the clip.
All interesting points, but
Yeah.
the elections, if you look at the pattern, Rahm Emanuel, moderate Democrats are winning time and time again.
Yeah. One thing is I don't want to leave this without saying it, in infrastructure. In the primary, many Democrats made fun of Joe Biden when he said we can do bipartisanship. In the general election, they said he could do it. This is a major win to show that the institution of bipartisanship and that comedy that working together can happen. Now to the election. What I call the heart and soul of the Democratic Party has gone 5 for 5. And I do think when political pundits, all of us can just say that somehow the progressives are the base. The fact is, in the Republican Party, Trump is the base of that party. That was proven in Ohio. Among Democrats, when you go 5 for 5 or you go 0 for 5, the fact is the Democratic establishment, the moderates who say, let's work together, try to figure this out, that is the heart and soul of the party. That is true about Joe Biden winning the primary. That's true about what happened here in New York City, the mayoral race. It's across the board true. And I think some of the elections 3-4 years ago where a lot of people say the progressives, I think those were actually more generational than they were ideological primaries.
That's probably more because the party, the Democratic base is moving right? The amount of Republican money and corporate money, big oil, big pharma that was in Ohio shows that really what we're seeing is that the base of the party is moving right. Progressives are holding the left flank. At the same time, you've got Cory Bush sleeping out, making all the difference in the very same week for millions of Americans and being celebrated. Progressives are making the difference and holding the traditional base.
Well, but that shows, Chris, that it's the
working
kind of
class people.
All right. Now, notice how there is absolutely no pushback at all on Rahm Emanuel except from Yvette Simpson. But when Yvette Simpson starts talking, then, the panel starts going wild and wants to interject. It really is. I mean, we are lucky that there was one person on this panel that was actually spreading some facts. Because you have here in Rahm Emanuel, before I even get to any of the points that he made, let me just break down how completely insane it is that he is a commentator in mainstream politics on national television. So Emanuel is, of course, a former mayor of Chicago. Now, in his first year, I'm going to go over a bit of his history here as mayor. In his first year as Chicago's mayor in 2011, he closed half of Chicago's public mental health clinics, leading to an increased mental health crisis. He eliminated Chicago's Department of Environment, cutting environmental inspectors and inspections in half and increasing lead levels in water, which wasn't discovered until 2018. He cut spending on education, including closing 50 schools in 2013, mostly in black neighborhoods. He diverted money from teachers to pay for increased policing. He was caught artificially inflating high school graduation rates. His infrastructure plan that promised 30,000 new jobs ended up creating only 108 new jobs. And he hid the police shooting. This is, of course, the big one. Hid the police shooting of Laquan McDonald while lying about what happened. This is the guy that ABC News thought, you know what, we want to hire him for our political analysis. This guy that completely devastated Chicago has been wrong about everything in terms of his actual analysis, and they want to hire that guy. This is the continued desire to want to kiss up to power. So kiss up to power in terms of people that are connected to corporations and benefit private interests. That's who is platformed and mainstreamed in national television when it comes to political analysis. So Rahm Emanuel, it's completely disgusting that he's actually on this panel. But now let's get to his points. He mentions here bipartisanship. Oh, isn't bipartisanship great? Bipartisanship for the sake of who? So if Democrats and Republicans work together to expand Medicare, work together to invest into the public good, then sure, great, bipartisanship. But the bipartisanship he's talking about is on the infrastructure plan, which is almost completely a giveaway to private interests. That is why you saw I think it was 19 Republicans sign on to pass the infrastructure package. It's because they know it's a giveaway to their corporate interests. Now, he also says here that, and this, he's not completely wrong on this point. He says that this is the base of the party, discussing the so-called mainstream Democrats. I would call them corporate Democrats, but that this is the base of the party. And he's not really wrong. I mean, the base of the party, if you want to look at how these campaigns are won and who, for the most part, are Democrats right now, and of course, the GOP, they're all corporate. But Democrats, the most part, are controlled by massive corporations. Big donors are largely what drives the Democratic Party. So when Rahm Emanuel says that's the base of the party, he's not wrong in terms of the actual politicians and what drives those wins, but he is wrong in terms of the actual voters. Because when you look at polling on Medicare for all, on a wealth tax, on increasing the minimum wage, all these progressive issues, the vast majority of people, including even in most cases Republican voters, side with those issues. They want progressive policy. So they're simply, voters are not getting what they want because of the amount of corporate money that's being poured into these campaigns. And that is, of course, misleading people. In the case of Nina Turner's campaign, all the corporate money that was backing Chantel Brown, they included in some of the attack ads on Nina Turner, they claimed that Nina Turner was against universal health care, was against raising the minimum wage, was against immigration reform, which is all bullshit. So they had to actually pretend that Nina Turner was more conservative than she actually is to win against her. But of course, none of that mentioned by Rahm Emanuel or any of the other corporate tools on this panel. But that's why it was so remarkable to see Yvette Simpson on here spread some knowledge, and I hope she continues doing that and is continued to be allowed on this network.